Hello, or as we say here in College Station, Texas, howdy. I'm Crosby. Welcome to the third program of our Environmental Awareness video series. This video is brought to you by the Bush Education Department at the George H.W. Bush Presidential Library and Museum in College Station, Texas. Visuals will be used in this program and will come with audio descriptions. The theme today is the National Wildlife Refuge System, which was created in 1903 by President Theodore Roosevelt and supported by various other presidents, including President George H.W. Bush. We will also have an amazing activity that allows you to create your very own creature, and then a craft that will allow you to add your creature to a fitting environment. In this lesson, we will be discussing wildlife refuges, what they are, their purposes, and how they impact wildlife. Also discuss how some of the presidents, including President George H.W. Bush, were important in preserving wildlife through refuges. Lastly, we will discuss two animals that have and are being positively impacted by wildlife refuge. First, let's go over what wildlife refuges are. Here's a picture of the Moosehorn National Wildlife Refuge in Maine, with a beautiful creek and trees with vibrant green, yellow, red, and orange leaves. A wildlife refuge is a specific area that the federal government designates as an area that needs to be conserved or protected so that wild animals and plants that are at risk are able to live safe and stable lives. These wildlife refuges are protected by the United States Fish and Wildlife Service. The picture on the screen is the United States Fish and Wildlife Service logo that has a duck flying and a fish coming out of the water. America is proud of its beautiful nature. Like the wetlands, wildlife, animals, and plants are seen as important parts to our American environment. With the creation of the National Wildlife Refuge System in 1903, American values such as freedom of life are demonstrated. In the picture, there is a bison out on a field in the Rocky Mountain Arsenal National Wildlife Refuge in Colorado. In the background, you can also see the skyline of Denver. To conserve wildlife, it takes a lot of expertise. The main form of wildlife conservation is habitat restoration. The National Wildlife Refuge System restores destroyed forests, grasslands, marine habitats, and wetlands like we discussed in the second program. The habitat restoration efforts also relocate animals which had to leave their original habitats so that they can live their happiest and most natural lives. Here is a picture of the Oahu Forest in Hawaii. It is a very green and mountainous area with loads of trees and what appears to be a rainbow. The National Wildlife Refuge System also has created habitats for migratory birds who flee to specific regions in the United States. This is to make sure that these birds have safe and stable places to live while they are away from their places of origin. This also makes sure that bird populations are maintained. In the picture at the bottom of the screen, there are a large amount of redhead ducks taking flight from a pond tucked away on the Padre Island National Seashore in Corpus Christi, Texas. Under the Wildlife Refuge System, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife System is responsible for protecting endangered species by maintaining their natural habitats so that their populations are not affected by predators. Speaking of predators, the Wildlife Refuge System also makes sure that invasive species do not enter habitats that they damage. Invasive species are those that cause harm to environments that they are not naturally from. Here's a picture of a Burmese python nestled in a tree on the right. It is in the Florida Everglades, which it's not originally from, as Burmese pythons are native to Southeast Asia. The Wildlife Refuge System also helps with contaminant cleanup. Scientists that work for the system are able to tell others how to clean habitats up after major disasters caused by humans so that animals and plants are able to resume life safely. The wildlife refuges can also reduce damages from things like hurricanes. Coastal restoration, like previously discussed in our video, protecting our North American wetlands, not only protects the wetlands from being destroyed by hurricanes, but they also act as refuges for various species that are endangered. The visual depicts Hurricane Laura from a satellite image about to make landfall in southwest Louisiana at the Cameron Parish coastline. Even with climate change, the wildlife refuge system is taking action. As sea levels are rising and land levels are lowering, The system has paid to raise their refuge lands to make sure that all animals and plants within the refuge are protected and are not affected by the rising sea levels. The Wildlife Refuge system in the United States is important in preserving its beautiful habitats. Now let's discuss when it was created and appreciate how presidents have made sure that the Wildlife Refuge system was maintained. The graph in the middle of the screen depicts the change of sea level from 1880 to 2020. The sea level starts at about negative 180 millimeters and has risen to over 50 millimeters in 140 years. That's crazy. The National Wildlife Refuge System was created in 1903 by President Theodore, also known as Teddy, Roosevelt. During his presidency, he created 51 national wildlife refuges. President Teddy Roosevelt loved the outdoors, parks, and hunting. In fact, the teddy bear was named after him. Here's a picture of President Teddy Roosevelt on the left on a mountain in Yosemite National Park with naturalist John Muir on the right. And here's a picture of a teddy bear. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, also known as FDR, signed the Duck Stamp Act on March 6, 1934. Between 1934 and 2009, sales of duck stamps provided more than $500 million to purchase land for national wildlife refuges. Because of this, FDR created 160 new wildlife refuges during his presidency. On the left of the screen is a portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt seated. Here on the screen is the 2021 duck stamp. On the top, there is a caption stating Migratory Bird Hunting and Conservation Stamp. It is $25, and there's a duck wading the water near marsh grass and duck calls. In 1960, President Dwight Eisenhower created the Arctic National Wildlife Range, which is now known as the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. This protects the entire Arctic ecosystem. This ecosystem has over 197,000 animals, such as polar bears, grizzly bears, wolves, caribou, and different types of migratory birds. The first picture on the very top right is a picture of President Dwight Eisenhower posing near the American flag. Just below this is a picture of the polar bear that is hopping from one large piece of ice to the next. In 1980, President Jimmy Carter signed the Alaska National Interest Lands Conservation Act, which created 16 different national wildlife refuges in Alaska. On the bottom right of the screen is a picture of President Jimmy Carter. As mentioned in the previous program, President George H.W. Bush signed into law the North American Wetlands Conservation Act in 1989. Because of this, President George H.W. Bush created 41 national wildlife refuges. It's a really cool fact that President George H.W. Bush created 41 national wildlife refuges while he was the 41st President of the United States. President George H.W. Bush, serving from 1989 to 1993, has the distinction of creating the most national marine sanctuaries during any presidential term, as he created 6 of them. His impact is found across America, and the waters of our national marine sanctuaries and underwater parks that protect our most unusual natural and cultural marine resources. Due to his actions, the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary and Marine Act, covering the entire Florida Reef trace, has been preserved. It included a comprehensive water quality protection program. Other sites include Monterey Bay and Flower Garden Banks National Marine Sanctuaries, Stillwagon Bank and Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuaries, and a vital new law reauthorizing the sanctuary systems by strengthening it. On the right of the screen is a picture of the 41st President, George H.W. Bush, in Grand Canyon National Park. He was also one of only 2 presidents who were fathers to another president. President John Adams was the father of President John Quincy Adams. President George H.W. Bush was the father of President George W. Bush. Here on the screen is a picture of President George H.W. Bush with his son, President George W. Bush. Both presidents were on a boat about to go fishing off the coast of Maine in 2002. This next picture is of a coral reef in the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary that President George H.W. Bush established. It is the third largest coral barrier reef system in the world. Here on the screen is a picture of a kelp forest in the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. Now here is a picture of some very green algae and colorful sponges in shallow water of the Flower Garden Banks National Marine Sanctuary. There are even some fish living amongst the algae and sponges. In 1997, President Bill Clinton signed the National Wildlife Refuge Improvement Act. This made sure that there were very specific regulations to keep up with the refuge system. Here in the middle of the screen is a picture of President Bill Clinton talking to a handler of an eagle. A major contribution was made by the 43rd President, George W. Bush. He created 3 marine monuments. In 2006, he created the world's largest marine protected area, a group of remote Hawaiian islands that covered 84 million acres. He designated the northwestern Hawaiian Islands the United States' 75th national monument. President Bush said, end quote, to put this area in context, this national monument is more than 100 times larger than Yosemite National Park. This is a big deal, end quote. With this, President Bush protected 139,000 square miles of habitat. On the right of the screen is President George W. Bush in Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area in Thousand Oaks, California. Lastly, in 2016, President Barack Obama expanded a different marine national monument called Papahanaumokuakea. He expanded it to 373 million acres, making it the largest protected area on planet Earth. On the top right of the screen is a cool picture of President Barack Obama and Turtle Beach on Midway Atoll National Wildlife Refuge. On the bottom left of the screen is a picture of a beautiful rock surrounded by very blue waters in the national monument. Thanks to our presidents, millions of wildlife lives have been saved because of their positive actions. 2 animals that have benefited from these actions are the beaver and red wolf, which we will now discuss. Beavers are the largest rodents in North America and one of the few species that have a huge impact on the environment. They are stocky and have brown to black fur. They also have a wide and thin tail, which is also scaly. They also have webbed back feet. On the right of the screen is a picture of a beaver with brown fur, webbed feet, and its long, flat, and wide tail underneath its bottom side. Their long teeth always grow throughout their lives, as there are a lot of wear and tear on their teeth. On the left side of the screen, there is a picture of a beaver with its mouth open and its very orange teeth. They move awkwardly on land, which makes them exposed to predators. However, they swim well and can stay underwater for about 15 minutes due to their very large lungs. On the right side of the screen, there is a picture of a beaver swimming in water. Beavers tend to weigh about 35 to 65 pounds, and the heaviest recorded beaver was 110 pounds. They usually are 3 to 4 feet long and will stand about 1 to 1.5 feet tall. Beavers are herbivores, meaning that they only eat plants. They usually eat woody stems, water plants, and leaves. On the screen, there is a picture of a beaver eating some leafy plant. Beavers live pretty much everywhere in North America, minus Nevada and California deserts, as well as parts of Arizona and Utah. Their habitats are in rivers, lakes, ponds, marshes, streams, and wetland waterways. There's a picture on the right of the screen of a mother and a baby beaver in the water together. Beavers are known for their ability to build watertight dams and bodies of water with sticks and branches that are formed with mud and woven by reeds. These dams reduce erosion by forming slow-moving ponds. These ponds serve as habitats for various living species in water. They also provide water and food for larger animals. These dams create new habitats that can support incredibly diverse ecosystems. On the bottom of the screen is a picture of a beaver dam that is blocking a freshwater lake in Acadia National Park in Maine. They also build large lodges with the same material that they use to build these dams. These lodges are domes that can be over 6 feet tall and over 39 feet wide. These lodges are usually built on islands and can only be accessed by using underwater passages. Beavers will spend all summer and fall building lodges and then will store food in them during the winter. Beavers also have a strong family unit and will stay in the family lodges, especially during the winter when it's cold. Kind of reminds us of the previous picture of the mother and baby beaver. Now on the screen is a picture of a beaver lodge with this dome-like shape. Beavers are in the least concerned category of endangered species today. However, beavers were almost extinct at one point. During the 18th and 19th centuries, which are the 1700s and 1800s, beaver fur was in high demand for scarves, coats, hats, and various other clothing items. Beaver fur was very popular in Europe during that time. Beavers were hunted and trapped until they were nearly extinct well into the 20th century or the 1900s. In the picture on the right is a fur trapper with a beaver pelt. The government began to protect beavers, placing them in refuges. The number of beavers began to increase, and now they are in the least concerned section of conservation. Even though their meat and fur is still sought out today, they are protected from overexploitation now. Beavers' main predator, minus humans, would be wolves. On the right is a picture of the conservation status chart, ranging from the least and most concerned. The ratings go as follows: least concern, near threatened, vulnerable, endangered, critically endangered, extinct in the wild, extinct. There are also two other classifications, which are data deficient and not evaluated. Now we would discuss another animal, the red wolf, which is facing extinction. Red wolves are a type of wolf that have a reddish-colored fur that is usually brown and have a black-tipped colored tail. Red wolves are about 4 feet long and stand about 2 feet tall. They weigh about 45 to 80 pounds. Here's a picture of a red wolf with its reddish-brown fur, a black-tipped tail, and it has a collar on it so that it is marked as endangered. Before becoming highly endangered, red wolves grazed the land from central Pennsylvania to southeast Texas. Now they can only be found in the Albemarle Peninsula of North Carolina. On the middle of the screen is a map of the United States where the historic range of red wolves is highlighted in yellow, and the green patch where the Albemarle Peninsula of North Carolina is. Red wolves are now protected in wildlife refuges in North Carolina. At one point, there were only 14 red wolves that could be found in the 1970s. Now, after being protected in wildlife refuges, there are about 75 to 100 red wolves left in North Carolina. However, this is still a small number that can increase. Red wolves still face extinction as they compete for resources to survive and are often mistaken as coyotes by hunters. They have also been hit by drivers by mistake. Red wolves stay within North Carolina under strict watch in their wildlife refuges so that the population increases to normal levels. On the screen is a picture of a red wolf running in an open field. Beavers are an example of successful conservation that hopefully can apply to the red wolf. Now that we have completed talking about what wildlife refuges are, how our presidents, including George H.W. Bush, have supported the National Wildlife Refuge System, beavers, and red wolves, it's time to do a fun activity with our friend Santiago, who will now take over.
Howdy, my name is Santiago, and I'm here to teach you how to create your own creature. So let's get started. First things first, you'll notice that there's already a creature done. His name is Spot, and he's colored. Now this is Ivy's creature, and later on after this activity, Ivy's going to show you what type of environment your creature would live in, what type of food it would eat, where it would live, But before that, you need a creature. And so we got to go and make our own creature. First things first, you're going to need a die. Now it's going to be a 6-sided die, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you can get a physical die or you can get a digital die. If you're on a computer, you can type in roll the dice and find a digital die. That'll help too. As well as a die, you'll also need a pen or some form of writing utensil to draw. You'll also need a piece of paper and some colored markers, crayons, or anything that's really colorful. Some imagination wouldn't hurt too. All right, so let me show you what a normal slide would look like. This is the eye slide. Now, the very first thing you're going to choose for your monster is going to be its eyes. And we're going to choose based on what you roll. So for example, let's say I got my die here and I drop it and I roll a 1. Well, I get the eyes that correspond to 1, right? But let's say that I roll a 6. So next to the 6, you'll see that it says choose any. So that means that I can choose any one of these 5 sets of eyes. Now, through the entire process of making a creature, there's going to be 5 sets of animal parts. So that includes heads, eyes, arms, body, legs. And as we go, you'll roll a die. And depending on what dice roll you get up an animal part. So for example, if I rolled a 2, I would get snake eyes. If I rolled a 3, I would get butterfly eyes. If I rolled a 4, I would get some crocodile eyes. If I rolled a 5, some gecko eyes. And if I rolled a 1, some bear eyes. But if I do roll a 6, I get to choose any of these for my eyes. And you can get a little creative with it too. You can do multiple sets of eyes if you choose to. You can do small eyes, you can do big eyes. It's all up to you. But you have to roll for your eyes and for your animal parts as you go down the list. So I'm going to roll. And what do you know? I got snake eyes. So I got 2 on my first dice roll. So I'm going to start drawing. All right. And I'm going to give you some time. And this time you can go ahead and start rolling as well. And look at what your die matches up with these pairs of eyes. And once you do that, start drawing. All right. And I'm done. And if you need a little bit more time, go ahead and pause me here and keep drawing. If not, we're going to move on to the head. Okay. So now we are rolling for a head. And I'm going to roll again. Oh, I got a 1. That means I get a bear head. Okay, so now you go ahead and roll as well. All right, and once you're done rolling, go ahead and start drawing. I'm drawing 2. Going to have some nice little ears and a nice little head. And as I go down the list and say what I got and draw what I'm getting, I'll also have a picture of what I'm drawing as well, just for reference. You'll see that on the left side, I'll also add a list of, for example, things that I rolled for: eyes, head, mouth, body, and legs. And as I go down, I'll have this little number sequence, just to see kind of what number combination made my monster. All right, once you're done with the head, let's go ahead and move on. So I'm going to start with the mouth. Let's roll that die. Okay, I got a 5. That's going to be, okay, interesting. That's going to be the gecko mouth. Okay. So go ahead and roll as well for a mouth. And like I said previously, if you roll a 6, you can choose any of these 5. You can even get creative with it and choose multiple mouths if you'd wish, if you roll a 6. But for right now, I rolled a 5, so I'm going to draw you as well. If you need more time at any point while you're drawing, go ahead and pause me, like I said, and keep drawing. But I am done with the mouth, and you'll see my picture. And so far, I rolled a 2, a 1, and a 5. And that's what my creature looks like so far. Okay, now for an important part. So since some animals have kind of reptilian vertebrate and some have normal mammal-like arm bodies, it's going to be a little weird for this portion because if so far you've gotten a lot of reptilian parts or snake parts and then you add it to a bear head, it's going to look kind of cool. So, all right, let's get rolling. All right, I rolled a 3. So that's going to be the snake body. Okay, so go ahead and roll for the body as well and start drawing. And this one's going to take me a little longer because the snake body needs a little more detail. But I'll go ahead and keep going. And shade it in a little bit. And again, you can pause me whenever you'd want to if you want to keep drawing on your own. But I am done. So that's my head, my eyes, my mouth, and my body. So now for the last little thing, we need some legs. All right, so for the legs, we're going to go ahead and roll. Wow, okay, I got a 1. Huh. Well, let's see, I think those are the bear legs. Those are. Okay, so you'll attach the bear legs like this. And you could get really creative with it. You could have done it at the end of the tail. You could do it anywhere. You could do multiple bare feet if you want, if you rolled for bare feet. If not, whatever you rolled for, add it kind of creatively. If you had a bear body so far and you have legs of a snake, you have a tail snake that's kind of also the bear legs, that could be kind of creative. All right, and this is what I got so far. And so far, I'm really liking it. I like that the legs are kind of sticking out and he's got to wobble back and forth to move around. Okay, so at this point, you should have finished your creature in terms of you have eyes, you have head, you have a mouth, you have a body, and you have legs all drawn. You haven't colored them yet, but you have them drawn. And so if you haven't done that, go ahead and pause me now, and we'll keep going here in a bit. Okay, so now it comes down to the important part, which is I gotta color my creature and name my creature. So I'm gonna go through the process of how I thought to color it, so maybe you get a little bit of idea of how to color your own and give yours a name. So I had a lot of bear parts, but it also kind of looks like a snake. So I was thinking of calling it bear snake, but I feel like a bear snake would be a bear that just has a snake tail or something like that. And so because of that, I'm going to call it bear snake, but all the letters are going to be backwards. So instead of it being called bear snake, it's going to be Rob Eknus, which is just snake bear in reverse, if you looked at it in the mirror. I thought that was pretty cool, pretty neat. And besides that, I thought, okay, well, normally snakes have color-coded bellies, so maybe I'll do a color coding. And as you can see, I have purple, turquoise, yellow, and so it just flips back and forth between purple turquoise and yellow turquoise over and over again. I added a little bit of black, and then the mouth was kind of gecko-y, so I added green and blue. Of course, we have a bear head, so it's gotta be kind of sort of grizzly-like, brown-like. Same thing for the legs. And I thought it would be kind of cool if I colored the ears blue and the eyes yellow. And overall, I'm really enjoying my creature, Reb Eknus. I like him quite a lot, and I hope you liked your creature too. So now this part of the activity is done. You've hopefully created your creature, you've colored it and named it, and now it comes time for me to move you on to Ivy's part of this whole video, and that's going to deal with the environments that your creature would live in, what type of food it would eat, where it would live. For now, you got your creature done, and I hope you had a lot of fun while making it along the way. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a nice day.
Hi, my name is Ivy, and today we'll be working on the craft section together. For this section, we're going to take our Create a creature and designing a personalized wildlife refuge for them. So I went ahead and made my own Create a Creature. This is Spot. She's very pleased to meet you. She has a yellow lizard head and some sharp teeth. She has a purple body and some beautiful orange butterfly wings. And she also has some bear paws. 4 of them to be exact, and she is quite playful. So I'm going to put a circle around Spot and list out some of her other things, which include that she's omnivorous, which means she'll eat both plants and animals. She can fly, and she's very small. So these are all things I know about Spot. So, for today's activity, I would like you to join in with me in doing some brainstorming, okay? Because we are designing a wildlife refuge, it's good to know what we want to create for it. So, for that, we are going to create a word web today. So, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to write the name of your creature in the center of a circle, or you can do a quick drawing of your creature. Either way, I would like you to take a moment and please fill the circle. Excellent. Next, I would like you to just write down some small details you've noticed about your creature, or you can draw an arrow pointing to these features that are very important for us to notice. So if I were to draw arrows, I would draw arrows towards Spot's teeth and her wings and the fact that she's tiny. Okay, so let's go ahead and think about what are some things that we want to include in a wildlife refuge for our creatures. I will draw lines off the center circle to connect ideas that we generate back to our creature. What are some important things that an animal might need to live and enjoy themselves? Well, the first thing I'd say is they're going to need a way to have some fun. Animals are often social creatures and they like to have fun just like we do. So that's one category we're going to think of today. Next, let's think of some others, such as water. We all very much need water to live. We have to drink water every single day, right? As humans. What's some other things we might need as humans, or as anything living, to do well in the world? Your answers don't have to be the same as mine. I want to think of two other things. Okay, so I was thinking of food. I mean, we all get hungry. And then shelter. So, someplace to sleep. So, those are the 4 categories I've thought of: fun, water, food, and shelter. You can copy along with those same categories, or you can include a couple of your own additions, however, you would like to brainstorm. So, this is all to help think of features we want to include in the wildlife refuge for our creature. In my case, Spot. In your case, well, I don't know, you designed your own, but you know your creature best. So, let's first take a look at the category of fun. Let me think of some things that might be fun for Spot. I think it'd be fun for Spot to have some friends. And I think because Spot has wings, one of the things they may do for fun is go flying. Now I want you to take a moment, look at your creature. What are some things you think your creature would like to do for fun? You can either write these out or draw a quick sketch. What are some things that you think your creature would like to do for fun? Well, looking at mine, friends and flying, I think that combines to make a great activity of racing. So I'm going to go ahead and put a blue star by racing because I think that's going to be the final idea for that category. I'm very sure I want racing to be part of the wildlife refuge. Okay, so that's our first example. Next, let's go ahead and think of some water sources for our creature. And remember, you're going to end up with ideas that can be completely different from mine. And that's okay because you know your creature best. But you can still follow along and we can still come up with ideas together. Okay, so water. I'm thinking there's some couple different water sources you can find in nature. So let's think of some that I might have in my wildlife refuge. When I kind of picture a place for Spot, I'm thinking of something with trees. So I think of something with like a river running through it, so there's a nice source of fresh water. Ooh, or maybe a pond attached to the river. So maybe Spot gets water from the pond. But she is rather small, so that might be dangerous. She could get water from the morning dew that collects on grass. She is small enough to take advantage of it. But that would be limited to time of day. So, while she could do it, it's probably not good as her primary source because it's limited to mornings. I guess another option is the river that runs through the forest, I think of, for Spot. But if the pond is dangerous, the river is likely also dangerous and too big for our tiny little butterfly sized Spot. But another option is the puddles collected by river rocks because often strong rivers they will kick off water and it will collect in the divots of rocks, so that would be small and approachable by Spot, which makes it safer than the river and available at all times of day. So I think puddles collected by river rocks is our winner for the water category. Okay, so your water sources for wherever you picture your creature may be completely different, and that is perfectly fine. Just make sure to write down those ideas. All right, so next, let us think about food. So, my creature, Spot, is omnivorous. Again, that means she'll eat both plants and animals. But you may have a creature that is carnivorous, so they only eat meat, or they might be an herbivore and only eat plants. So think about that as you're coming up with food ideas for your creature. Spot is small, so she needs access to small food. So I'm thinking flowers and small insects. Specifically, the nectar from flowers, just like a butterfly, and some small insects. Well, there's always those tiny insects that bother everyone, and I say that Spot helps us by eating ticks and mosquitoes. Spot is a wonderful creature to have around in a nature preserve or anywhere else. So those are going to be my selections for food, and I have put a blue star besides both of those options, which is the nectar is our plant option and ticks and mosquitoes are meat option. So I hope you took a moment and thought of some food options that meet your creature's needs. Next, let's think about safe shelter. So your animal creature may be living in a desert or in a rainforest or in the ocean. So they're going to have different requirements as to what makes a safe shelter. But the idea is we want to give our creatures a nice, safe place to sleep where they'll be nice and warm and kept dry. So for Spot, this could be the knot of a tree. That'd be pretty safe. Maybe not the most comfortable, but it would be pretty safe. It could be on a leaf. So I'm definitely thinking in a tree. Ooh, or we could have some moss, which could also be on a tree or maybe on a rock. And it would be comfortable, but I'm not sure how safe it would be. But I think a leaf would be high, it would be inaccessible, so hard to approach for a lot of different predators or things that might want to eat Spot. And I think best of all, Spot could have a leaf hammock, and that'd be really cool. So we're going to go ahead and put a star by leaf hammock for Spot and make that the choice of the day because, oh, that just sounds like so much fun. So just think of some ideas that, that you're just going to enjoy imagining your creature enjoying. Okay, so that does it for me in the brainstorming category. For Spot, for the fun category, I have racing. For water, I have puddles collected by river rocks. For food, I have nectar, ticks, and mosquitoes. And then for shelter, I have a leaf hammock. So now it's time to go ahead and create my wildlife nature preserve. Now, for this next section, the sky really is the limit. You could make a poem or an essay about your creature. You could set up a 3D diorama where you built your figure out of clay and built a whole scene. You could make a comic strip using some of your ideas to create a whole little story. You could make a painting or even a drawing. As for myself today, I'm going with the drawing option and a sort of version of a comic in that each of these categories, fun, food, water, and shelter, are going to be given their own section in the drawing. Let me go ahead and show you what I mean. So here is the beginning of my drawing. I'll go over it with you real quick, and then you can go forth and create your own. Here I have divided a piece of paper into 4 sections: the food, water, shelter, and fun. And then I'm going to focus in on each section one at a time and thinking back to my brainstorming. So I went ahead and drew some flowers and mosquitoes and ticks that I then started adding details of colors to. So for the poppies, of course, I added some red and some oranges, and then I added some grass, more grass, just to make it more pretty. And then I added in some color to my mosquitoes and ticks. The colors weren't really real to life, but that was fine because the idea is still there. And then I added a bit of a background. Next, I went over to my water and in pencil, I always started all of my designs in pencil so I could create a rough sketch. And then I went through and I started developing out my ideas in colored pencils. Though, of course, I could have used crayon or paint or marker to develop these ideas. And I went through in the water case and I drew a rock with some holes in it that would collect the water for a spot. And then I made my rock brown. So in this rock, I have a good 9 holes, some of which are connected, and there's a bit of a cliff on the rock, so sometimes the water falls down into a crack, and that helps with the erosion process. Rocks can change over time and are worn down by the river, and just, all the cool things. Adding in small details can really sell the idea of what you're drawing. Next, I had the shelter section. So I drew a tree and I had some outlines of leaves. I started with 1 leaf and then I was like, no, that's not enough. And I added 2 more leaves for a total of 3. And my branch is one that has a big trunk that splits into 2 sections. Then I added some color to my leaves in a very cartoonish style. And then I colored in my branch and did the background. And all of a sudden, I have some beautiful leaf hammocks for Spot and any of her friends. Lastly, I had the fun section. So for this one, there's Spot, who has a ribbon in her mouth because she crossed the finish line first. And then she has 2 friends she was racing with, and they are flying through the air. So you don't really need to see the ground because they're way up high, and it's really fun. And they all have purple bellies, and one of them has yellow butterfly wings, 2 of them have orange butterfly wings, and I just had fun adding in those details. So on this screen, you're seeing the final product. It's that same piece of paper, this time with all of the sections colored in and drawn in and all coming together with Spot in the center, because all of this represents different parts of the wildlife nature preserve that she uses. So again, you can approach your project like this, or you can set it up in a completely different way. But no matter what you do, I hope you have fun and are creating an amazing wildlife nature preserve for your creature to really thrive and be happy in. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks again, Ivy. I hope you had a great time with this craft. Today we talked about multiple things: what wildlife refuges are, the presidents that supported the growth of wildlife refuges, including President George H.W. Bush, beavers and their conservation story, red wolves, and creating your own creatures and placing them in a habitat suitable for them. From all of us at the Bush Education Department at the George H.W. Bush Presidential Library and Museum in College Station, Texas, we thank you for joining us today. For more great content created by our Education Department, please visit www.bush41.org/education/overview. For additional programming, please visit www.bush41.org/premier-education-programs. You can also contact us at bush.education@nara.gov